Hello everyone, welcome back, and today we are going to be moving on to the final facet of the Studium, which of course is the Fisher questline. So we're going to go ahead and unlock it by speaking with Tia, Fear the Thesis. Could it be? Yes, you must be the gleaner I heard so much about. Let me get straight to the point. Yeah, slow down, buddy. Oh, but where are my manners? Allow me to introduce myself first. My name is Tia, and I'm an associate professor in the Faculty of Aetherology here. To tell the truth, I'm in a bit of a bind. I'm scheduled to make a major presentation at a conference in the near future, but as ashamed as I am to admit it, I've not been able to get enough data to properly finish my thesis. If I'm unable to prove my worth of my research, then my funding is all but certain to dry up. As you can see, the stakes are high. You have the look of an adept angler about you, am I right? If so, you could be just the person I need. This section here is one I've rented out for my work. Might I interest you in taking a look? So, what does aetherology have to do with fish, I wonder? Impressive, isn't it? I bet you never laid eyes on such a fine fish tanks before. Sadly, as you can see, it's entirely devoid of fish. Anyhow, I suppose I should tell you about my work. You see, I research water veins, and not just any old ones, mind you, but those that carry ether, not unlike the life stream or the etheric currents in the wind. Life is naturally drawn to areas abundant in ether, which is why you might observe that popular fishing spots are often also ether-rich. My research focuses in particular on veins that carry especially high concentrations of ether, currents commonly known as spectral currents. Are you perchance familiar with the phenomenon? Well, I guess if you do deep fishing, yes. Oh, I expect nothing less from a veteran gleaner. I must say, it's always nice to meet someone familiar with my subject of life's work. In any event, the most important point to remember is just how important the ether currents are for aquatic life. To look at it another way, it is possible to identify how strong the local ether currents are by studying the fish and other aquatic life in any given area. And that's where we come full circle. I require specimens of fish from various bodies of water to confirm my hypothesis regarding underwater ether currents. And there's the rub. The areas most worth researching also happen to be in the hardest to reach. Of course, I would not be adverse to risking the journey myself, if only it were not for my condition. Yes, I suppose I should explain. Put simply, I have long suffered from a particularly nasty case of ether sickness. Why, I can't even use the Ethernet or any sort of teleportation magics. Quite annoying when your work particularly depends on such things, to say the least. Really? I know, an etherologist who can't stomach ether. I wouldn't believe it were I not living this nightmare myself. But perhaps you are skeptical. I have an idea. Follow me to the Aetherite Plaza and I'll show you just how bad I've got it. Okay, I think I'll take your word for it. Because, Claire has gone through some nasty bouts of ether sickness herself. I honestly don't think I've ever seen her that sick. So we're supposed to go and collect fish from very rare places and just compare them with the ether currents, I'm guessing? Etherology is perhaps the one I have the most trouble understanding, to be honest, but hey. Wow, it must be bad if he's standing all the way over here. and it's affecting him. You see, I'm feeling so queasy, it's all I can do to hold down the contents of my stomach. Oh, the whole world, it is spinning. Someone make it stop. What is this? Forgive me. What the heck was that? Well, there you have it. My condition has manifested itself all over the ground for you. I say, Tahlequah, are you quite all right? Professor Neely, I see your condition's as bad as ever. One would think you'd avoid a place like this. And you, are you perchance assisting Tahlequah with his research? The boy may suffer from terrible ether sickness, but as a scholar he has much potential as anyone I've seen. You develop an eye for these things when you've been in academia for as long as I. But I must be on my way. I very much look forward to reading your finished thesis, Tahlequah. Oh, did I mention that I don't handle pressure particularly well? I've barely written the introduction to my paper, and Professor Neely is already selling it up to his peers. How can I possibly live up to his expectations? Incidentally, Professor Neely is the one of the leading authorities in the world of aetherology. Some would say he's the equal of Master Matoya, and for some reason he seems to have taken a liking to me. He's the one who pushed for the school to allow me to form my own research team as the first and trial phase of a program to support young scholars. Otherwise, a humble associate professor such as myself would never be able to conduct such an ambitious project. And yet I run the risk of losing everything if I don't turn my potential into actual results at the upcoming conference. Not only would my own research team be disbanded, but there's a high likelihood that Professor Neely's program would be terminated, meaning that no other young scholar would ever again receive the opportunity I did. The very future of the Studium is at stake. Part of me wishes I could just drink my worries away. Sadly, I handle alcohol about as well as I handle ether. I may not be good at dealing with ether or pressure, but one thing is certain. For Professor Neely's sake, I must not fail. I cannot! And so I beg you, pray help me. There is no one else to whom I can turn. Okay. Just take it easy there. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you. You are a shining beacon of hope for all young scholars here in Charlian. Now, let us head back to Searcher's Meet so that we can get to the task. I shall meet you back at my office. His office? I think he means like his desk or something. But I can get behind that. I like that idea that they have these programs for young scholars to be able to join them. Yeah, I have not fished in a very long time. So let's just go ahead, move things around real quick. And I'll be back once I rearrange this. Okay, here we go, back at the Studium. So I rearranged my hotbars, that's good to see. And let's go ahead and accept the first task, which I'm sure is going to be coming right away. Claire, I was just compiling a list of fish that I'll be needing for my research. Let me know when you're ready to get fishing. I'll fill you in on exactly what I would ask you to do. Okay, the Faculty of Aetherology has been unlocked. Alright, so let's go on to the first quest, Go with the Flow. Alright then, shall we get started? To review, I require samples of aquatic life from various bodies of water. that I might analyze them and ascertain the current state of the respective region's underwater ether currents. Before I send you to far-flung locales, I like to gather data from somewhere nearby. Collecting samples from a stable, controlled environment like Labyrinthos should give me a good basis on which to compare any future findings. To that end, I like to ask you to catch me some giant ether mice, and a fair share of them to ensure the representation sample size. According to my preliminary research, they swim in abundance near the Veretic conduct and have a noted fondness for gold salmon roe. Well, it's nice that he goes ahead and tells us exactly what kind of bait we need. So it would be right here, it looks like. Yeah, okay. Just making sure. And so I know that we can go ahead and get the bait from this place as well. Okay, so where is it? Okay, the junk monger. Purchase item. Here it is. Okay, so let's just grab 99 of those. I don't think we'll need all of them, but hey, better to be safe than sorry. So I'm not going to have you guys have to sit and watch me fish the whole time. I'm just going to give you the idea of where you need to go and just to confirm that you actually get the right fish. But ether lice? Really? That's a hell of a name. Okay, yeah, I remember. It was a tiny waterfall. Adorable. Okay. And can't cast here. There we go. Lost our bait. That's okay. We got plenty more. Okay, so we have this place added to our fishing guide. Definitely don't need that. Okay, there we go. A giant ether louse. I'm pretty sure that's what we need. Okay, so I ended up skipping a little bit ahead, but you now know exactly where to go to get the ether lice, what you need, and everything else. So here we are back at the Studium. Have you had any luck catching those lice? If not, I suggest heading to the Theatric Conduct with some gold salmon roe in your tackle box. That is what you fishers call it, yes? Now this is a remarkable catch. Impressive specimens like these will give me even more quality data. I can't thank you enough. Okay, yes, I kind of already knew about all this parts. Okay. can deliver these items to improve our standing with the Faculty of Aetherology. Patience. Okay. Thanks to your efforts, I've been able to compile a full set of reference data. Now we can finally get started on spots further afield. But before that, I haven't yet explained my research to you in detail, have I? Simply put, there's a certain hypothesis I want to prove. In my studies over the years, I have come to believe that much like the tide ebbs and flows with the phases of the moon, so too do the underwater ether currents that cover our entire planet. When the concentration of ether in any given current changes, aquatic life in the area grows more or less abundant, which ultimately affects the currents of the ocean itself. We might theoretically identify the best times for fishing, and even know when it's safest to navigate the seas. Needless to say, it would be a major breakthrough, and I'm one step closer to realizing it all thanks to you. Ah, Telequa. It looks like your research is progressing well. Professor Neely. I heard that your friend here had started gathering samples for you, so I brought a few choice tomes with me that might serve to point you in the right direction. As always, you are too kind, Professor. I can't thank you enough. Don't mention it. When the time comes that your research bears fruits, that will be all the thanks I need. Your mind for developing compelling hypotheses has always impressed me. You lacked only for a skilled gleaner to help you overcome the limits of your affliction. I will be watching this new partnership of yours with great interest. He seems like such a nice guy. Phew. Why, that actually wasn't so bad. Just having you around has already taken a huge weight off my shoulders. Up till now, Professor Neely's confidence in me only made me feel pressured to deliver something that I wasn't even sure I was capable of. But now I finally started to make some tangible progress, and that's all because of you. For the first time, I feel like I might have a bright future in academia after all. Yes, I have a feeling everything is going to go swimmingly. No pun intended, as long as you're by my side. You know, that sounded a bit romantic, if you ask me. Alright, we are now a dependable fisher. That's nice of him. Alright, so the next quest will be at 83. So we'll go ahead and pause it right there, but I'll be right back for you guys in just a second. Well, a second for you. Okay, here we are, back at level 83. Welcome back, and it looks like some changes have been made because there's a giant ether louse in the tank behind us. Data across the decades. Oh, hello again. Did you notice the fish tank, by the way? I went ahead and put one of my research specimens in it. Quite the looker, wouldn't you say? Oh, yes. He is. I tell you, so many things have fallen into place ever since you showed up. I'm having the time of my life analyzing all this data. I mean to continue my analysis of ether lice, of course, but I will task another gleaners with such mundane tasks. Instead, I'd like to make full use of your skills by having you visit an area I've long been fascinated with. I speak of the ocean surrounding Thavnar. I have reason to believe that there was a significant change in the ether currents in those waters that occurred around the time of the calamity. Professor Neely shared with me some data from 20 years prior, and I would compare it with the current data I ascertained if I'm correct. Alright, Thavnar, not a problem. The waters around Thavnar, you see, have long been one of the focal points of Professor Neely's research. I wish to study them more to honor his work, whilst also using it as a starting point for my own. Before you go, however, a word of warning. Ever since the calamity, the region is notorious for shipwrecks. I realize that you are a seasoned professional, but but I fully understand if you do not want to take on the risk. Oh, the Siren Song Sea. Yeah, we've been through a lot worse. I almost didn't return from my voyage on the Siren Song Sea. So the rumors are true. Still, you could always fish off the island's coast. I reckon that there wouldn't be much risk in that. Anyhow, I'd like you to fish the same species that Professor Neely studied 20 years ago, to wit, the Gargana wrasse. According to the books the professor gave me, they live near the Great Runoff, and are known to enjoy nibbling on shrimp balls, and that should do it. Be safe out there, yes? Okay, so let's head on out. You manage. Okay. Tropical fish submit. Okay, so at least we know what we're looking for. So I'm just gonna go ahead and teleport straight there. And it's pouring rain. Why am I not surprised that we're in the pouring rain? Anyway, so the Great Runoff. I think it's not around here. There's the Great Work. I'm pretty sure that's supposed to be around the Great Work. Okay, hey everyone, welcome back. So here we are on the very cliffs just outside the Great Work. So I had to do a little bit of research, and I had to try a few different spots until I found the right one. But yes, so we're right on top of the cliff, just outside where the Great Work is, and we're using the shrimp balls to try to capture the Gargana wrasse. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but this is definitely the right place. I've already captured a few of them. So I think that's all the ones that we need. Yep, that looks like all of them. So the coordinates I use are 822. So you can actually check that out here in the corner, just in case you need it. But we're going to head back to Charlian and turn these in. I wonder if they're going to change the tank too. Yeah, that was a little more difficult than I thought it was going to be. Just finding the right place was a difficult thing to do. Oh well, I got there in the end, so we're just gonna teleport back here. And... Nope, it's wrong way, this way. I'm so used to doing all the other quests that I automatically went off to the right. Have you managed to reel in any wrasse? According to my references, they live on relative abundance near the Great Runoff and favor the taste of shrimp balls. Speaking of which, how do you plan to travel to Thabnar? I suspect teleportation magics would be the most convenient way, if sadly not one available to me. In either case, do take care. Okay, turn them all in. Dear me, what an impressive specimen. This should allow me to collect data as complete as Professor Neely's from 2 decades ago. I can't wait to compare my findings. Well, I dare say I have more than enough samples now. Pray wait for just a moment. I'm going to ask Professor Neely to take a look. It's not every day that you ask after me, Tahlequah. I trust this means that your research is coming along well. Better than I could have ever imagined. As a matter of fact, I was hoping to hear your thoughts on my latest findings. Comparing my data with yours from 20 years ago, I can say with confidence that the concentration of ether in the area did indeed show an increase around the time of the calamity. From these numbers, I would posit that smaller fish species in the area have increased in abundance several-fold. The Garjana wassail in particular is known for protecting itself from predators by creating disturbances in the surrounding ether. A population increase of such scale would undoubtedly result in a dramatic impact on its habitat. Which would go a long way to explaining the countless shipwrecks. The sheer number of these fish would surely play havoc with the ship's ether compasses. Outstanding work, Tahlequah. Of course, more data will be needed to prove your assertions as fact. Should it hold true, however, this could be the discovery of no small import. Come to think of it, I remember you showing me considerable interest in my research into the seas around Thavnar. What exactly was it that drew you to my work? Oh, it's just, well, I've always found the figure somewhat unnatural. Call it a hunch, but I couldn't help but feel like it warranted further research. Ah, now that's the true spirit of a scholar. Even the most epoch-making of discoveries can start from observation of a simple irregularity or curiosity. With that intuition and power of observation, you're going to go places, Tahlequah. I knew my faith in you was not misplaced. I am? You flatter me, Professor. Take care not to let it go to your head. Your potential will only be stifled if you allow yourself to be content with minor progress and faint praise. Of course, Professor. I will redouble my efforts and work harder than ever to deliver results. And on that note, I best get to work summarizing my findings for inclusion in my thesis. If I am able to identify an explicit correlation along the post-calamity change in ether concentration, the explosion of the fish population, and the increase in shipwrecks, it will go a long way towards proving my theory correct. Of course, I'll be needing more fish specimens before that can happen. Fair warning, I might have to send you to even more hazardous locales, and yet I'm sure you're up to the challenge, yes? Splendid! I swear this was the most invigorated I've ever felt about my research. Now, where to start? Okay, we're a formidable fisher. Alright, so we're getting there. And we already got an increase, so we're going to be jumping straight into the next quest. But first things first, I think it's about time that we go ahead and get an outfit change. Hey everyone, I'm immediately back here after I did a quick change of gear. I really do like this outfit. I think that Claire looks really good in it. So the next quest is History Lesson. Tahlequah Tia has an unquenchable thirst for data. Ah, hello again. I truly can't thank you enough. The samples you provided me have allowed me to make incredible progress in my work. As it happens, I actually just decided on the next specimen I would like you to procure. You see, I've essentially completed my analysis of the current surrounding Thavnar. I must say it's been most enlightening. Next, I would ask you to travel to a place where we have no pre-existing data. To wit, I mean to research the currents in Golemald. We've been unable to even set foot in the region until now, which means that gathering data there could lead to a truly revolutionary discovery. After all, we still have no idea how the underwater ether currents there are connected to those in other regions. Alas, lacking data from years past, it won't be such a simple task to identify the changes that have occurred over the decades. I do, however, have an idea how we might get around that. The answer, my friend, is shellfish. Study the growth lines within their shells should allow me to draw some conclusions about how their habitat has changed over time. After carefully perusing Professor Neely's tomes, I've come to the conclusion that Garlean clams would be particularly suitable as a research specimen. Do you think you'd be up to the task of catching some for me? Clams, you say? Leave it to me. How hard could it be to catch a clam? Wonderful. I'm quite confident that quality data from Golemall is what will allow my thesis to truly begin to take shape. Ah yes, I've also read that clams exist in abundance in the areas around Camp Broken Glass, and that leeches are particularly effective in luring them up from the water's bottom. Pray forgive me for asking you to travel to such a perilous location. Please do whatever you must to stay safe. Well, that's kind of a nice change that he at least acts concerned for us. Okay. Any luck finding those clams? As I mentioned, you should be able to find them in abundance right around Camp Broken Glass, and don't forget to bring a healthy supply of leeches. I heard that Golemall continues to be a most volatile and perilous place. I admire your courage, friend. Even were it not for my ether sickness, I doubt I could work up the nerve to go there myself. Okay, so we're going to be hunting down some clams. Now let's go see if we can just buy some leeches first. I'm pretty sure I saw them around here. So where is... who do I talk to? I was told that I could get the leeches from here. No, I don't see where you can actually get them from around here. Oh well, let's just head back to Camp Broken Glass. I'm sure that we'll have a junkmonger around there. Here we go, junkmonger. And leech. Here we go. So buy a handful of leeches. And there should be a pool. Oh, right there. Wow. Do not have to go far at all. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is the right location. So let's just switch over to green leeches. That's strange. Oh, that was easy enough to get that level up. Alright, so I'm just going to speed things up just a little bit until we're able to find ourselves a clam, just to make sure it was the right location. There we go. So we got our first Garlean clam, so this is exactly where we need to go to find those. So I hope you appreciate these clams, buddy. You've done it! My colleagues will be burning with envy when they hear I've obtained a specimen from Golemall. How can I even begin to express my gratitude? Oh, you might be wondering who this is. My research has been progressing so well of late that I brought on a few of my students to serve as assistants and help me analyze all this data. At any rate, I cannot thank you enough for braving such hostile environs for the sake of my life's work. No one in my field has had the chance to obtain substantial data from Golemall until now. It would be no understatement to say that your contribution is historic. Needless to say, this puts even more pressure on me to deliver with my thesis. Oh dear, my stomach's starting to feel queasy just thinking about it. Ah, Tahlequah, would you believe you're the talk of the Studium? Even the senior faculty can scarcely wait to hear that you were able to glean about the ether currents of Golemall. Professor! Yes, it's all thanks to Claire here. Without her aid, I never could have procured this most invaluable specimen. Indeed. Truly, I have not seen a partnership between scholar and gleaner bear such fruit so swiftly in a very long time. Oh, that's right. Speaking of gleaning, I meant to tell you about everything I've learned from the clams you brought. I'm pleased to report that analyzing Garlean clams appears to have been the right call. Examining their growth lines, I was able to find specimens as old as 97 years, giving me almost a full century of data to analyze. By far the most interesting thing I've noted so far is the reverse correlation between ether levels near Thavnar and those in Golemall. That is to say, over periods of time when the ether concentration was high near Thavnar, it was low in Golemall. The reverse was also true. I see. That bit of evidence would seem to corroborate your hypothesis that the planet's ether currents move in tandem with each other. Should you manage to collect data for more regions, still, I suspect you may very well be able to accurately predict changes in the fish population across the world. This could have remarkable implications for the future of the fishing trade. I was thinking the very same, Professor. Nothing would give me greater joy than if my research were to bring about a tangible improvement in people's lives. Before meeting you, I never dreamed I would make it this far, but now I feel more confident than ever that I will be able to prove my hypothesis one day. Why, I can almost see my completed thesis in my mind's eye. But I can't afford to get too complacent just yet. The most important work remains to be done. I am pleased to see that all is progressing well, and yet do not be surprised if there comes a time when Tahlequah's resolve as a researcher is tested. A time when he is forced to consider what it is that truly drives him to engage in his work, for such times come to all scholars, no matter how naturally gifted they may be. What's this about? Should Tahlequah find himself in an impasse, can I trust you to lend him your support when it is needed most? It would mean the world to him, and to me. That's strange. Wonder what that was all about. Anyway, we are now a seasoned fisher. Alright, and that should open up the next new quest. That's part of the story. Okay, so we can go on to the next quest right away. But first, let's see what his new assistant has to say. I'm actually quite curious. I spent all my time in Searcher's Meet these days. Frankly, I'd be willing to do anything that helped the professor to finally finish his thesis. Alright, he's an assistant professor. Okay, the Wandering Whale. Telaqua Tia will stop at nothing to complete his research. Thanks to your most selfless contributions, I draw closer and closer to proving my hypothesis correct. Other gleaners have also been helping me by continuing to find specimens for me in calmer waters. But I would gather data from further and further afield, which is of course where you come in. Professor? Abrasi, it's not like you to get so excited, whatever is the matter. But I haven't introduced you two yet, have I? This is Abrasi, one of my new research assistants. She's been a great help in analyzing all the data we've collected. I appreciate the vote of confidence, but this is no time for pleasantries. A whale has somehow wandered its way into Scholar's Harbor. The Harbor Master has requested that you come and assert the situation with all haste. Oh dear, I suppose we'd best be in a hurry then. My apologies, but it seems our work will have to wait until later. In the meantime, would you accompany me to the harbor? Your insight into the situation could prove most valuable. A whale? I don't think I've seen a whale in this game. Yeah, I'm actually kind of blown away. I have no idea what to say about this whole thing. Oh, it's dark already. Okay, Scholar's Harbor. Why would a whale wander into the harbor? I'm guessing it has something to do with the ocean currents, the ether currents, I guess, in the ocean. That's why they're going to him, I'm guessing. I see a crowd already. And I don't see anything. I really don't. Oh! That's a whale? That's a breed that calls the northern seas home. It's not especially rare to see them off the coast, but I've never heard of one coming so close to land as this. Wow. That is one freaky looking whale. It's most strange. It doesn't appear to be wounded, nor have there been any notable storms of late. Whatever might have caused it to veer so far off its normal course? What indeed. At any rate, we need to move it to one of our facilities and ensure it's kept safe while we tend to its wounds it may have and study it more. I suppose we should check its ether levels as well. Ready a team for me, Abrasi. Of course, Professor. This may be quite the undertaking. My apologies, but our project will have to wait a little while longer. Let us reconverse back at Searcher's Meet and discuss the matter further. I did not notice the whale before, and it seems to have just disappeared again. A vanishing whale. That sounds like the name of like a really good story. That, or maybe like the name of a bar or something like that. Oh, hello there. I'm so very sorry for keeping you waiting. We just finished tending to the creature's ailments and doing some preliminary analysis. As we suspected, the whale hasn't sustained any major injuries. However, it does seem to be suffering from severe ether sickness and is highly disoriented as a result. Needless to say, I can sympathize. The creature's ether levels were also cause for concern, which would explain why it wound up somewhere so far from its usual habitat. That said, we're still none the wiser as to what caused all of this. Oh, it's you. How goes it, Talaqua? Oh, and Claire, what a pleasant surprise. I've heard all about your predicament in the wayward whale. Master Kite, to what do I owe the pleasure? I was simply hoping to pick your brains about something that I imagine is related to your line of work. Around the same time your larger-than-life friend wandered into the harbor, a veritable legion of fish washed ashore in Yadhimad, near the experimental aetherite. That sounds too similar to be mere coincidence. Curious behavior by aquatic life has been known to portend natural disasters. Yes, this strikes me as very much related to my studies. That said, nothing I've gleaned thus far has suggested that ether currents can change so drastically as to inflict nearby creatures with ether sickness. All I have observed suggests that the currents of the planet flow a simple and regular rhythm, not unlike the tides. Indeed, the entirety of my research up till now has been focused on proving this point. If there has been a sudden disturbance in the underwater ether currents, then it will take some time to determine the cause. I also need to attend to the whale. Oh, when will I have time to return to my thesis? You can complete your thesis at any time, mates. As for the whale, the Studium has already announced that it will be dispatching a vessel to research the ether currents in the seas near Charlian. Won't benefit any of us if such incidents continue to occur, after all. If we wish to investigate the link between the two events, as Master Kite suggested, then perhaps we should pay a visit to Thavnar. An astute suggestion? You could recruit the help of one of our colleagues over there. Or, wait a minute, I believe you have the perfect woman for the job right here! Sure, I'll go to Thavnar. I don't need an excuse. As generous and dependable as ever. Yes, I knew you'd be up to the task. I would accompany Claire. Really? You would? When was the last time you even ventured outside the Studium grounds? That's not important. Claire has risked life and limb to help me with my research. I can't just keep leaving all the hard work to her. But Professor, going to Thavnar means you would have to travel via the aetherite, or by ship. Not that you'd handle that any better. You don't have to tell me that. Still, time is of the essence. Besides, I'll never be truly respected as a researcher if I don't go out and get my hands dirty from time to time. I have let my fears rule me for far too long. Today's the day I conquer them. Well, it's clear you're not going to change your mind. At least, try not to cause Claire too much trouble. Now that you mention it, I haven't consulted you on the matter. Claire, do you mind if I join you this time? Well, assuming you don't pass out or anything. Fantastic. In that case, I'll see you in Yadilma. The professor was saying he would go on ahead to Yedimad and wait for you by the experimental aetherite. I do hope he isn't too much of a nuisance for you with his ether sickness. That is something to really be concerned with. Because he's never been to Thavnar, so he has to travel through the experimental aetherite. And that is able to make even people who are used to teleportation magics feel sick to their stomachs. And if he gets sick by just like the regular ether currents, like the regular aetherites, It wouldn't surprise me if it just kills him, like straight up kill him. It's going to be brutal, poor guy. Well, he brought it on himself, really. Can't say he wasn't warned. Nice that we have such a convenient way to get to Thavnar real quick. Well, he's still breathing, I guess. I found this fellow rolling about on his own vomit a short while ago. Not a pretty sight, I can assure you. I'm not sure I've ever seen someone suffer from such severe ether sickness. Oh, Claire, is that you? Ah, you know this fellow. The poor man was so ill I thought he might die. I'd not have believed anyone could suffer from severe ether sickness if I hadn't seen it myself. Be glad you weren't here to see me immediately after I arrived. It was even less pretty a sight than what you witnessed at the Aetherite Plaza back in Charlian. And don't get me started on the most ghastly visions I saw. Countless replicas of myself dancing and singing and spinning. Spinning. Oh, the spinning. Please make it stop. You got issues, buddy, don't you? I suggest you lie down for a while still, friend. It wasn't so long ago that you were convulsing on the ground, spitting up some ghastly bile. You alright, my friend? My apologies for making you worry so. I'm truly sorry about this, Claire. Might you be so kind as to ask around while I rest here a bit more? My apologies. I simply don't have the physical fortitude to do much of anything right now. Don't you worry. Your friend will be safe with me. I know not what business you have here, but pray attend to it. So, gathering information on the whale. How would they know anything about the whale? Now you mention it, there was one thing out of the ordinary earlier, the day before the fish appeared. The river that runs here from the shroud of the Segma was swelling like mad. The seawater flowed back into the river, and some say they saw it carrying fish deep, deep into the woods. I've never seen anything like it. Entire schools of fish suddenly washing up ashore. There were so many you couldn't see a single grain of sand. Our fishers have had their hands full trying to clean up the mess even as we speak. Troublingly, we have no idea what caused it. It's not as if anything ominous occurred to portend such an event. Why, the night before was peaceful as always, the full moon shining bright in the night sky. I'm guessing that's the full moon had some kind of effect then. Why am I not surprised? Oh, wow. God, you think this is a lot of fish? You should have been here earlier. This is a massive improvement, believe you me. No time to rest, though. If they start rotting, the stench alone will be enough to make the whole town ill. What's especially bizarre is that these fish normally stay away from land altogether, save for when they go upriver to lay their eggs, that is. Anyhow, I've never seen or smelled anything like it in my life, and I hope to never do so again. That was a lot of fish. We gave your friend some medicine, and thankfully it seems to be working. He's finally feeling a little more like himself. My apologies for making you go alone, friend. Still can't quite stand up straight, but I feel much better than when I arrived. Tell me, were you able to learn anything of interest from the townspeople? A full moon the night before, and a strong tide flowing up into the river? It would seem that this is what we call a tidal bore. The fact that these fish are typically not seen near the coast is strangely reminiscent of our whale problem as well. No, this cannot be a mere coincidence. The matter of these fish that were supposedly carried upstream into the woods intrigues me as well. Assuming they're still alive, they would provide much more useful data than those rotting corpses on the beach. If we were to analyze them and find them in similar etheric state as the whale and Charlian, we could safely conclude that both events were caused by the same, or at the least a similar, phenomenon. I'm so terribly sorry to impose upon you again, but could you go and catch those fish for me? They might very well be the key to solving this mystery. From the fisherman's description, swimming upstream, you said, I suspect we are looking for Alanaris salmon. If so, these leeches you used on the clams and Golemal should serve you well again here. Okay, well I got plenty of leeches left over. So that should be enough. So I only have to catch one. I set upstream though. So... Oh, okay. So I'm guessing it's probably around here. No, it's in the woods. So probably around that area. We'll try there first. So, here's the river. I'm guessing this is the right location. Yeah, we'll try here first. Mark for the quest, the Wandering Whale. Mark for the quest of the Wandering Whale. Detect it. So I'm guessing it really is the right place. Taking a while, isn't it? There we go. Oh! Wow, that was easy. I was expecting to have to fish for a while. Oh well, we got what we needed. Okay, we brought your fish. We gave your friend some medicine. I'm loath to impose, but you must go into the woods and catch those fish for me. I didn't come all this way just to get myself sick. I must solve this mystery. Oh, thank the gods! And thank you, my friend. I would have hated to go home with nothing but the memory of my worst bout of ether sickness ever. I'm happy to report that I also made some progress myself. I've had word with the alchemists who helped me, and it turns out that they have a keen interest in the ether as well. We have exchange of views that was most simulating. I may not have been able to do much while here, but I'm glad I made the effort to leave the Studium for once. Now, it's time we return so I can make use of this new knowledge and analyze the samples you so kindly reeled in for me. Alas, while we may not need to use that god's-awful experimental aetherite to travel back, an aetherite is still an aetherite. Heavens have mercy. So Tahlequah has unique visions whenever he gets a bout of ether sickness. I can't help but worry for him. Good to see you return. Needless to say, the trip was a rough one for me. Thankfully, it wasn't nearly as uncomfortable as that dreadful experimental aetherite. I've just about finished analyzing the fish you caught in Thavnar. As expected, their ether levels were almost identical to those of the wayward whale. So you believe that a sudden change in the concentration of ether in the nearby currents caused them to completely alter their behavior? Precisely. That said, the change was of much magnitude that I would struggle to explain it with my initial hypothesis of ethereal tides. On the contrary, if such a sudden changes are possible, then I may have to reconsider my premise altogether. Moreover, we can't safely return the whale to the sea until we know precisely what is the root of this problem. Might the title bore hold the answer? Yes, I do remember considering that when you shared the people's tales with me. If we posit that the underwater ether currents are affected by the moon, much as the tide itself is, then any sudden change in the moon's states would naturally affect underwater ether levels as well. Recent changes in the moon. By the scholar, that's it. The destruction of Zodiark would have freed an unfathomable amount of ether from within the moon. It would only be logical if this had an impact on the underwater ether currents. Oops. That's our fault. If If this is the explanation, my initial theory may yet be viable. With this recent outpouring of ether being the exception that proves the rule, we'll need to watch closely for any similar incidents in the near future. Ah, Tahlequah, word has it that you braved the journey by Aetherite to do some field work in Thavnar. Did you find aught of interest there? I see. Word of advice, if I may. Any researcher worth his salt must be prepared to rethink and reevaluate their theories when presented with new evidence. Have you given any thought to how you might adapt yours? My initial theory was, to a degree, predicted on the existence of Zodiark. Now that he is no more, I am not entirely sure how we might... Unless we could. Yes, that's it. We could examine a species altogether more ancient, from a time when the heavens were free of Zodiark and other entities of high etheric concentration. Professor, please, this is no time for idle jests. I'm being perfectly serious. Why, I have complete confidence that Claire here will be able to find what we require. Really? I do not doubt her skills, but even the best of gleaners would struggle to find specimens of species that doubtless died out ages ago. Oh, ye of little faith, our friend is more than up to the task, isn't that so, Claire? Wow, he's certainly got a lot of faith in us now, doesn't he? Now that's the spirit, Tahlequah. A good scholar must consider every possible option, even those that might seem impossible. Keep pondering the matter, and I have no doubt you will arrive at the answer ere long. Yeah, what if you don't have a gleaner that can travel back into the past? Like 10,000 years into the past to like an ancient research facility for creations, which I'm sure is what the next quest is going to be all about. So what if he had like a regular gleaner? Seriously, who could not travel back in time? Honestly, think things through, buddy. Fish that time forgot. Okay, how about you? Nope. You had such sympathy for us before. Well, let's go ahead and pause that right there. Be back in a second. Okay, here we are, up at level 88, and I'm ready to go on to the next part of the quest line. I'm still kind of sore at this guy, but hey, fish time forgot. Oh, hello there. I've been racking my brains trying to come up with new ideas. Alas, nothing has come to me thus far. No matter how much I ponder, I keep coming back to the same thought. I have to get my hands on some specimens from a time before Zodiark came to be. I simply can't accept that all the work we have put into confirming my theory might amount to naught in the end. You know what? Give me any ideas you've got, no matter how outlandish they may seem. Please, Claire, I am in dire need of inspiration. You'd be surprised at what I can do. Yeah, I can go back in time. Oh, but wait, do you truly mean it? I'll find your stupid fish. As a scholar, I would love to probe deeper into the details of exactly how you mean to do this, but this is hardly the time for idle chatter. If you can indeed procure this sample for me, I beg of you, please do it. Why, this could be very well be the solution to what I thought an insurmountable problem. Ideally, I would examine an ancient specimen that shares some common traits with creatures that still exist today. Reading through Professor Neely's tomes, I remember thinking that a species called the Smaragdos would be perfect. I know not where you mean to find them, but I wish you safety and good fortune in your journey, Claire. Okay. Yeah, he's gonna completely freak out when we bring it to him. Okay, use a sky spoon lure to fish some small racos from Lithe and Elpis. Okay, I know where that is. So first things first, let's go get a sky spoon lure. So here's the 12 Wonders. I think it's up here. Yep, there it is. So it's going to be the lake here. That's where we need to go to find these fish. And I'm just going to go off really quick. Okay, so I had to come back to the market board as quickly as I could to get a sky spoon lure. And yeah, let's get a handful of them. So I got a couple of them, so let's go ahead and head right back. Okay, so I'll go ahead and show you the location. And then we'll just fish around until we find the right fish. So we don't have to go too far. It's right up here. You can see where the waterfalls are. Okay, so right up here should be good. Casting our line. So let's just speed things up just a little. There we go. Okay, so I managed to find our first Smaragdos. Okay, so we just need 5 more, so I'll be back once I have all 6. Okay, here we go. I'm back, and I just finished catching the last fish that we needed. And that was our new personal best, actually, how big that one was. Alright, so let's head back. He's gonna completely lose it when we show up with, like, ancient fish. Probably shouldn't let people know that, yes, we can travel back through time into the past. Might not be a good idea, you know? Because then we're going to get researchers like him who are going to be bugging us all the time and bringing back some of these creatures for them. Someday when I'm done with my thesis, you will have to tell me all about how you seemingly can do the impossible. Well, funny story how that is. Alright, so let's go ahead and turn these all over to him. Are my eyes to be believed? An actual Smaragdos? And it's even more impressive than anything I saw in my books. I know not how you accomplished this, Claire, but you have my eternal gratitude. Ah, Claire, I've just finished my preliminary analysis of the Smaragdos, and needless to say, it has proved truly fascinating. Incidentally, I recently overheard some of the senior members of the faculty discussing the days before the world was sundered. This led me to wondering just how far back you traveled. I've long heard rumors of a collective of goblin scientists who were attempting to reverse the fabric of time itself. To be honest, I always thought it a mere jest. But is it possible you use such a method to journey into the past yourself? But I will not ask you to reveal your secrets. Not now. You have provided me with exactly what I need to break this impasse of my research, and I must seize the opportunity. At any rate, examining the relative states of the Smaragdos scales, it appears quite evident that the levels of ether in the underwater currents fluctuated regularly even in those pre-Zodiac days. That said, the shifts in concentration appear much gentler compared to the present day. I suspect that the inflated ether levels of the moon caused by the presence of Zodiac are the key to explaining this change. Put simply, these recent incidents have a manifestation of ether levels returning to how they once were so very long ago. Frankly, I should be elated. This effectively proves my hypothesis correct. However, something does not sit right with me. I feel like I must do more than just identify what is happening. How can I sit around here in my office poring over specimens and tomes while these poor sea creatures are suffering? The next whale might very well come ashore to its doom like the fish in Thavnar. Oh, thank you for coming, Professor Neely. I'm most pleased to say that with Claire's help, I believe I'll finally be able to finish my thesis. Is this to say you truly were able to obtain a specimen from ancient times? Impressive! Most impressive indeed. Truth be told, the senior faculty of the Studium have been aware of this form of travel for some time now. Sadly, as much as I argued your case, I was strictly forbidden from granting you access to it. Fortunate you are to have Claire at your side. With your diligence and aptitude and her unparalleled gleaning skills, I am expecting greater and greater things from your thesis. I knew it! So if I am promoted to full professorship, I might gain access to that knowledge as well? Then I must work even harder towards that goal. And yet at the same time, I find myself with a dilemma. Is it not selfish of me to focus entirely on my own research at a time like this? Is it not my duty as a scholar to help in a more concrete manner? Very astute questions, those, and questions for which you must find your own answer. Of course, none would object if you were to publish your findings. You've done more than enough to support up-and-coming researchers at the Studium, and your work will doubtless prove a fine starting point for any who wish to explore the subject further. There are plenty of academics who are drawn wholly by their own curiosity, who devote their entire lives to their studies and research for its own sake. However, there is also demand for another type of researcher, one who uses their findings to seek out tangible solutions to the problems of our world. Your research has brought you face to face with innocent creatures in peril and united you with a brave companion who has traveled to the edge of the world and beyond for you. It is little surprise that you might find new motivation from their presence. At the end of the day, it is your choice to make. You must decide what inspires you most as a scholar. That is all I can say. As always, Professor Neely has given me much to ponder. Up until now, I'd simply enjoyed solving the mysteries of the world through my research. Only now have I begun to realize there may be more to it than that. Forgive me, but I would like to consider the matter further. Might I be able to count on your aid once my mind is made up? I swear, I feel there are no limits to what I might achieve as long as you're by my side. Okay. I honestly don't see what the problem is. I mean, he can go ahead and finish his thesis, and then he can go ahead and see if he can apply that into the world itself. Or better yet, continue working with his thesis and then find a solution to that as well. Alright, so we have just one more quest to go. Cannot wait. Be right back in a sec for you guys. Okay, here we are, everyone, back for the final quest here for the Facet of Aetherology. So level 90, Pastures new. Telequatia is looking to apply the finishing touches to his thesis. Claire, always a pleasure to see you. I fear I haven't quite made up my mind regarding the issue we discussed last time. Please don't be overly concerned. I fully intend to finish writing my thesis for the upcoming conference. the same time, I cannot stop thinking about what Professor Neely said. In fact, I was just thinking I'd like to head to Tranquility to be alone with my thoughts for a while. Would you mind joining me a bit later? An exchange of ideas might do me well. I don't see what's stopping him from pretty much doing whatever he wants. Like, once he finishes his thesis, he's made into a full professor. I mean, he'll have a lot of other duties, but he should be able to have access to information that could definitely help him out. Seems like a no-brainer to me. Oh, he's behind the tree. Thank you for coming. Do you recall how Professor Neely encouraged me to consider what path would most inspire me? I was thinking it over, and it occurred to me, had I not met you, I doubtless would have continued to use my ether sickness as an excuse to stay cooped up in the Studium forever. Likely I would have succumbed to the weight of expectations and given up on my research entirely. Thanks to you, however, I was able to obtain the data I had so long sought, and now my thesis is nearly complete. For that you have my eternal thanks. And yet, I am now stuck with a profound feeling that I must do more. I must seek even greater heights. I suspect my colleagues would laugh me out of the room if they heard this, but I have a mind to obtain data from the moon itself. If I can only get my hands on that, I'm confident I could find a way to stabilize the ether currents, and in doing so save the poor creatures of the sea from their suffering. Sure, no problem. Yes, this is no time to rest on my laurels. There is so much more that must be done. Of course, I'll hardly be able to accomplish this on my own. What do you say? Will you lend me your help one last time? Well, I can hardly turn you down now, can I? Oh, thank you. I promise this will be the last request I make of you. As for precisely what I would have you procure, this is where it gets a bit complicated. Normally I would reference the tomes in Numenon, but as one might expect, none of them cover the ecosystem of the moon. Perhaps you might seek advice with those who reside in Mare Lamatorum. If anyone could tell you what's worth catching, I suppose it would be them. In the meanwhile, I shall focus on writing my thesis. I cannot wait to see what sort of exotic specimen you find for me this time. Perhaps one of the knowledgeable law parets of Bestaway Burrows could point you in the right direction. Alright! So, we're heading to Bestaway Burrows. So I'm guessing this is like, well, of course it would. So this would be taking place right after the Loporrits come to Charlian, so the people are, so it's common knowledge that the Loporrits exist.
Oh, hello there, Claire. Whatever brings you here today? You don't say. That strikes me as a rather curious thing to be researching, but to each their own, I suppose. At any rate, I do believe the most representative specimen of the aquatic ecosystem here is a fish we call the lunar lamentier. They're quite plentiful in the waters of Valles Vulnuris. They're known to have a fondness for gray worms, which we suspect is one reason they taste so atrocious. Believe me, you won't find any of our chefs complaining if you take home your fair share. That said, it's most surprising to hear that the destruction of Zodiac has impacted your world so. Do be careful down there, yes?
Okay, so I think... Where is it? Oh, there it is. So it's the Cradle of Darkness. I mean, there's no rivers or anything here, so... I mean, I guess we could just fish... I guess space fishing is what it's called? So, like, are we, like, literally fishing, like, right where the... like, the Cradle of Darkness was? I don't know. Okay, so I think I can also get the gray worms up here if we speak to the junkmonger. Here they are. And yes. Okay, so let's just grab a handful of those. We'll grab a whole stack. And we'll get ready to head out. Okay, so it took me a little while to figure things out. I kept thinking that I was supposed to be fishing like right here, like on the cliffs and into the Cradle of Darkness. That's not at all how it works. So as I was looking around here, I remembered that there's actually like these pools of water like inside these caves. So here's one such pool. I think it's water. I don't know exactly what it is, but hey, we'll try it. Taking its sweet time, isn't it? There we go. Come on. Oh, that was fast. It looks like a stingray from the picture. Alright, so I guess that's all we needed. Kind of sad that I had to go and buy an entire stack of gray worms, but hey, I'll go ahead and save those for the next time I come here. So let's go ahead and send right back. I think that's all we needed, right? Looks like it. Okay, well, let's go. So back here at the Studium for the last time for this faucet. You're back! I'd love nothing more than for you to regale me with tales of the moon, but before that, do I smell what I think I smell? Incredible! So this is the sort of creature that dwells on the lunar seas. I can't wait to dig in and start examining it. Well, there's no telling until I see the data. I'm quite confident that this discovery will allow me to revise my theory and complete my thesis. I'll be making my presentation at the phenomenon, but to be honest, I've never been very good at talking in front of the senior faculty. Might you be so kind as to come sit in the audience? Just knowing that I have a friend among the audience would go a long way to put my heart at ease. Normally, only the faculty and students are allowed to attend such events, but I'll have a word with the administrators. Given all you contributed to my research, I see no reason you shouldn't be permitted to attend. Okay. So, where is Phenomenon? Down this way. Okay, down this way. Ah, you must be Professor Telequatia's guest. Please go right in. I do believe your friend's presentation is about to get underway. Thank you for assembling here today, everyone. I am Telequatia, an associate professor here at the Faculty of Aetherology, and today I would like to, present some recent findings from my research on, ether currents. My presentation is entitled Ether Tide on the Waxing and Waning of Ether Levels in Underwater Currents. Simply put, my hypothesis was thus: the world's underwater ether ebb and flow in tandem. When the concentration of ether drops in one area, it rises in another. This phenomenon repeats itself periodically. Long did I believe this was so, but never was I able to accumulate sufficient data to prove it for certain. This all changed recently, thanks to the talents of a truly remarkable gleaner who risked life and limb to gather the samples I needed. In the course of my research, however, I also discovered many things which I have never imagined on the outset. First and foremost among these was the ether Zodiac exerted upon those selfsame currents. Now, as you all know, Zodiac is no more. As such, ether levels have temporarily fluctuated across our entire star as the etheric state of our world gradually readjusts to how it was in the days of yore, before Zodiac came into being. Having had the fortune recently to analyze some samples obtained from the lunar surface, it has become apparent that this fluctuation in ether levels was at its most dramatic during a full moon. We have reason to suspect that the recent incident with the wayward whale was also caused by the selfsame phenomenon. In other words, a sudden change in the local ether levels caused it to suffer from symptoms akin to severe ether sickness. Needless to say, this would be all mere speculation if corroborated by the concrete data. To that end, kindly turn to page 14 in the booklets I have handed out and take a moment to peruse the chart on that page. Quite fascinating. Many scholars stubbornly stick to their initial convictions despite the circumstances. But you have clearly taken even the most recent developments into consideration in fleshing out your thesis. Admirable indeed. You are too kind, Professor. And yet there is more I would share. Utilizing my own findings in combination with some chemical techniques I learned from my colleagues in Thavnar, I do believe I have crafted this spell that might help to stabilize the underwater ether currents. More so than my academic findings, I believe this to be my greatest accomplishment. Isolating the relationship between the moon and the underwater ether currents was an important first step, no doubt, but helping those suffering creatures will be of far greater import in the end. Our planet is currently in a state of transition. I suspect the imbalance in ether levels will continue for quite a while still. And so I intend to do everything in my power to minimize the effects of this on both beast and man until our etheric environment stabilizes and returns to normal. Thank you, Telequatia. We shall inform you of your evaluation in due time. In the meanwhile, pray continue to attend to that poor beast in the harbor. We wish you the best of luck. Thank you, Professor. So, that all went really well. So, he managed to come up with a spell that easily? Really? I mean, I guess he's really talented. I mean, he's been able to go over all kinds of research in like a matter of minutes. Oh, the whale! I still find it so freaky looking, I'm sorry. Oh, look! There you are! I simply had to tell you before anyone else. My colleagues couldn't stop praising my thesis, and to say I could never have gotten to this day without your help would be an understatement. Not only have I secured more funding to continue my research, but I've also been promoted to a full-fledged tenured professor. I simply cannot believe that the day has come that I can wear this prestigious gown. Why, I've dreamed of this since the very first day I set foot in the Studium. No, it really does look good on him. I think it looks better than green, actually. Oh, you're far too kind. I've still a long way to go before I be worthy of this garb in the way that, say, Professor Neely is. I've always believed in Telequa's potential, but I dare say he would have been hard-pressed to fulfill it were it not for his fortuitous meeting with you, Claire. For that, I too owe you my thanks. Oh, and this is neither here nor there, really, but I received some rather delightful news recently from the Faculty of Medicine. It would seem the professor there who is researching method for treating the whale has developed an experimental medicine that can lessen the effects of ether sickness. Even more fortunately, it's said to work even better on men than on beasts. Yes, with this new medicine at my disposal, I can finally take responsibility for my own field work and stop forcing generous gleaners such as yourself to travel in my stead. So you can actually travel without risk of dying. Just think of all the places I'll go, distant lands, the open sea, why, maybe even the moon. I simply can't wait to really stretch my legs and explore the world. And with that, I'd best be off. This isn't farewell, not by a long shot. I have no doubt our paths will cross again somewhere upon some distant sea. I thank you once again for everything, my friend. I'm sorry, that whale looks like some kind of part of a brain or something. Like some alien creature. Oh, wow, look! He's still in his robe. Oh, he really does look good in that. I'm standing here in this new gown, but to be honest, it still hasn't all sunk in. Congratulations, Telequatia. You've come far indeed, and you've earned every bit of it through your diligence and dedication. And glad I am for it, for now I've seen you realize the potential I always knew you had. I can finally retire with my heart at ease. Retire? Professor Neely, what are you saying? No need to act so surprised. I've been considering it for some time now. I'm no spring chicken, and there's little reason for me to cling to my position when promising researchers like you wait in the wings. Of course, I will continue to share my experience with you if you so desire, but finding that which most inspires you and pursuing it with all your body and soul, there is something you must do for yourself. I have already imparted all I can. You were able to find this in yourself, in no small part through your chance encounter with Claire. I was happy to be there for you along the way, but I dare say you will fare well enough without me. But, Professor... The future of aetherology is bright indeed as long as young talents like yourself continue to research here. And so I very much look forward to hearing of your meowed achievements as I enjoy my golden years. If you're ever in need of conversation, pray visit, though you might muse about the mysteries of the world, not as teacher and student, but as colleagues and friends. That would be delightful, Professor. I could not have asked for a greater parting gift than your vote of confidence. And thank you once again, Claire. I will be continuing my research here at the Studium, so do stop by whenever you would care to talk aetherology with a friend. Likewise, I look forward to hearing even more about your adventures in the far-flung lands you've been exploring, and perhaps if you happen to come across any exotic specimens of fish, you could snag one or two for me, just for old time's sake. Aww. What a nice ending. Alright, so let's go ahead and finish all this up here. Wow, this was exhausting. Alright, we've completed all of his tasks. We are now considered a master fisher. Oh, we've completed all these quests. Yes, finally! We've completed everything. We can take on the final task. Alright, but we'll go ahead and just finish things up there. And we'll save that for the next episode. But thank you all so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed it. And be seeing you again soon.